Social media doesn't value a singular voice. There is no such thing as an AI artist.
Before we begin, a message from Skullboi. AI is interrupting real human connection and real human creativity. If this message sounds hollow, it's because I'm an AI trained on Brian Barry's voice. Is this what you want your future to sound like? AI will never be human. AI will never make art. Now, back to real human connection, creativity, and art.
Hello, 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 and welcome back to Skullboi, or if you're new here, hello. Here on Skullboi, we explore how our analog past shapes our digital future. I am your host, Brian. With me, as always, is your other host, Brian. One of us is in the Matrix. One of us is not. You can make that determination for yourself at the end of the episode. Hello,
hey.
hello.
Hello, hello. It's good to be here. Good to be here with you to chat about one of our favorite movies of all time.
In this week, looking at other YouTube videos and just like getting other perspectives before we talked about it, realized that this movie is quite divisive. People either love it or hate it. And then the sequel trilogy takes that divisiveness and divides it in half again. I love all of the movies.
All three. All four.
All three.
All four.
All four. Yeah. All four. I think the second one is probably my favorite. It's like super sci-fi and goes super deep though. Which one's your favorite? Because I actually think the second one's my favorite. Because I feel like the second one goes full on bonkers.
It's really funny because to me, I like to compare them to, like, say, Terminator 1 and Terminator 2, or Alien versus Aliens. Like, both movies of those franchises, they're very different from one another, but they're also really good at what they're doing, I think. So I love the first one because I feel like it's like a great balance of both action and philosophy.
Yes.
Maybe even more on the philosophy because it was so groundbreaking and so new.
Yes.
I love the second one because I feel like it is kind of bonkers, and the action was also just elevated even more so, I think. So I felt like it was a really good time. I don't know. I haven't watched it in a long time though.
Okay.
And I don't know if at the time, the second, and then especially the third one, I don't know if I appreciated it as much as I did back then. But I think after listening to other people talk about the franchise as a whole, it makes me really want to rewatch the second or third one, because I think on a second viewing, especially during this time, I feel like it hits in different ways, and the interpretations I can have now can be much deeper.
It really does. I agree. And it's the last episode, if you're listening or watching in sequential order, but we brought up Aaliyah last time, and I wonder what these films would have looked like if Aaliyah was in them.
She was
Jada Pinkett Smith. And I also don't understand that casting. Those two people in real life are so different. Like, Anyway, we're not even talking about, we don't even know that character yet. We don't even know that character. I know. One of us, we're just free. They don't like it.
Okay.
Architect's not liking it.
Sorry, Architect. He's a big fan of Jada Pinkett, apparently. So
he's like, enough with this back and forth. Are you that somebody? I'm about to write you a 4-page letter.
Age ain't nothing but a number.
Okay, there we go. Enough Aaliyah because we're butchering her legacy right now. So we are going to break into this film, discussing it where it is now. Where do we think the idea of the future was in 1999, right on the precipice of a new millennium? There is no way the Wachowskis wrote this without the idea of the new millennium somewhere in their brains, because that was like the cultural zeitgeist at the time. It was all about what is it going to look like. In the late 90s, technology was, what is everything going to look like? Where is it going to go? And this movie really kind of discusses that in a lot of ways. I love that you mentioned Terminator, because Terminator asks similar questions, albeit no tea, no shade, but maybe a little bit of tea and a little bit of shade to James Cameron in like very straight man himbo. I can only get so deep because too many feelings. Yeah. This goes all the way in because queer people have the greatest creative brains ever. Like, right? Let's just say that. So in 1999, The Matrix came out. It changed everything. I remember probably in 1999 not allowing myself to like this movie as much as I do because in nerd circles, it was Star Wars Episode 1 versus The Matrix. The Jedi did not move like Neo was moving. And why couldn't they do all of those things? So I was fully 2 feet into the Star Wars camp, and apparently I could only like one. Dumb, but that's where I was back then. And as time has gone on, I've really learned to appreciate this movie, especially as a queer person trying to figure myself out within the queer community because I'd already come out, but then trying to figure out who I was in the queer community was like a whole. That was probably where the real journey for me actually started, and that's where who am I once I'm outside of the matrix of straight people. What about you? Like how did you receive this movie back in the day when you first saw it?
I think I mentioned it before, but I did
How old
not.
were you?
I was 14.
14. Okay. Because this is also going to change things. I was like 20. So there's like different life experiences at this moment in time also, which is interesting. Okay. You were 14. What'd you think?
So I did not watch this in the theater when it first came out because it was rated R. So I think it was just harder at the time to try to get into those movies, especially this movie. And we also touched upon it before, but this movie came out a couple weeks before Columbine. And so I think that really colored this movie especially for me and for me having access to it. It wasn't, so I didn't watch it, and I heard about the controversy, particularly about, I think one certain scene that we'll talk about later is the lobby scene. And so I think that was just one of the things that was just this conversation that was happening a lot. So I didn't get to watch it until it came out on DVD. And it was my family's first DVD. So yeah, we watched it on DVD, and I
love that.
Yeah, and I remember it. I watched it with my mom, and we both loved it.
Is your mom like a sci-fi action person, or was it because everybody watched it?
I think she just loves movies. Like one of my favorite memories is growing up is that my mother and I, we would go watch movies every Friday. Whatever was out, yeah, she'd pick me up from school. We'd go to the movies and watch something.
Okay.
So yeah, it was not really. Yeah, I think it was just that was the movie that was out or that was really popular, and so
that's great. That's awesome. Okay, I like that. I remember back then, without social media, I mean, the news still has quite a pull, right, in shaping the narrative of culture, less so than it used to, or differently. Maybe I don't know if I want to say less so, differently. But I remember I was still close enough. I had graduated high school 2 years before. I hadn't started college yet. I took a few years off before I went to school. But I remember in high school, I had like a lot of goth friends. I've always been this person that loves different people from different like subcultures and all those kinds of, because I always feel like you can garner something different from very different kinds of people. Actually, it might even be fitting to this movie as well in some ways, actually. But I remember lots of trench coats were worn by goth kids. And trench coats and goth all of a sudden became the evil that you couldn't let your high school children be anymore. And you being in junior high, almost high school, right? Yeah, probably in junior high, eighth grade, maybe ninth grade.
Eighth grade, yeah.
Yeah, that might have really influenced you in a very real way. Do you remember those kinds of conversations?
Yeah, it was, I think there was that association that you just mentioned. that was being made. Of course, like a very unfair association, but
Mm-hmm.
it definitely just caused it was just this whole idea of guns and media and movies and video games that were infecting, quote unquote, infecting kids and
Mm-hmm.
influencing them. And this movie was very much part of it.
I think we've mentioned this last week. We're asking, when was Doom released?
The original?
Yeah. Let's see. I'm going to look this up real
I'm going to
quick.
guess 94.
93. Okay.
Oof,
So yeah, you're
close.
close. Okay. So Doom, the video game, caused a lot of that conversation before because it was really ultra violent at the time. Those graphics were like killer. I don't know, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. Like, was there a tremendous thing of first person shooters before that? I mean, we all had Duck Hunt. So murdering little cute ducks is fine, but monsters was not okay. I'm trying to think of like first person shooters because I think of that game and I think of the Terminator 2 video game with the machine guns at the arcade. Like that is where my mind goes
Let's
still
see.
when I think of that genre.
So GoldenEye was a game that came out a couple
Okay,
years,
yep.
a year before that, maybe 2? No year, 97. But Quake, another first person shooter.
Yeah.
Trying to think of others, but
God, Quake was so big in the 90s too. How did I forget that?
yeah. So I think just the idea of just video games.
Yeah.
Anything that had any type of violence that was at the deemed realistic, it was under the crosshairs of, people that wanted to have some type of scapegoat to blame
Yep.
things on.
Yeah. So okay, yeah. That had been in the conversation for several years before this came out. That maybe I wonder if those conversations could have even influenced this film. I bet.
Well, I mean,
A
the
little bit,
Wachowskis,
right?
they were really big video game players. Like
Uh-huh.
they loved D&D. They avid video gamers. They created a video game in the Matrix called Enter the Matrix, which I
Mhm.
loved. I fucking love that game. So good
I wish I played that.
at the
Like
time.
I didn't really have because I don't even remember when the servers closed on that game.
Wait, you might be talking about the MMO. Which
Yeah.
I did not play that one.
Okay. What was Enter the Matrix? That wasn't the MMO.
No, it was just a single player third person shooter adventure game.
Okay.
And you played Niobe. And they actually filmed scenes with her, like with the actors from the movie, specifically for the game
while they were shooting the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I remember that. I remember that now, actually. Okay. Yeah. But yes, I was referring to the MMO that was like in the Matrix using the internet when the internet was still new to like talk about this thing. And like, I wish I would have known about it back then because I did not.
I
don't remember when that game was out, but I never played it. That would have been rad.
Online 4.0, the easiest just got easier.
It's easy to install and easy to get started.
Everyone I know is on it. Email,
instant messages. There's no better way to keep in touch.
You've got mail.
They made the internet easier than ever.
Free 24-hour customer service.
We've spent over $1 billion to create the world's largest high-speed network. Now with 56K, connections are faster than ever.
It's fast.
If you have a phone line, you can go online.
What will they think of next?
America Online, so easy to use, no wonder it's #1.
So, it's 1999. Video games are all the talk. Violence is all of the talk. Violence and breaking away from violence is a big part of this movie, right? Bullets, guns are the one thing that can really kill you in this movie. For whatever reason, that's the thing that kills you, right? The movie starts with a white rabbit. Nice, wonderful little Alice in Wonderland reference. We got some great music going on. It's very goth. It's very leathery. It's very green. We have Trinity's opening thing that was like mind-blowingly amazing that we had never, ever, ever seen before. And like, how many movies do you actually meet an action-driven female character first.
Yeah, to open the movie that way, so much confidence. And even the way that the agent, like Agent Smith, he's talking to the police and they're like, "Oh, we've got our whole guard up there." And he's like, "She's not like anyone else." Like, or something. What did he say? He said something like, "If they're already up there, they're probably already dead," or something. So like just the amount of like tension, and because we're almost like, should we be, is she evil? Is she the bad person? We don't know at this point, you know?
I mean, she's dressed in all black. That's like coded to be the villain. I mean, we're both massive Star Wars fans. I'm sure Darth Vader really put that out there for a really long time. Black, shiny leather equals big, bad, scary, right? I mean, forever. But even before that, I don't know why I'm not thinking about this. You've got the little background going on right now. That was like you entered the movie through the screen.
And it also, the WB intro turned green, or was green at, you know, so it was already just a clue that, hey, this movie is going to be different. You know, this is, you need to start paying attention. Right.
We're all over the place already. That's fine. Earlier, we have already mentioned Aliens, Terminator 2, how they were the difference between that and like the Matrix 1 and 2 and all these things, right? And how different they could be, but they're all very good at what they're doing individually. And thinking about like the Matrix that you just talked, or the WB Matrix style, how sequels could be so different. I just went and saw Spider-Man last weekend. And it's good fun. It's really good, actually, because I did not like the last Spider-Man movie, like, at all. So I was a little bit nervous, but this movie was really great. What's that? Yeah, we watched it the night before we went and saw it. I was like, yep, nope, fell asleep. I don't like it. I don't know what it was. It doesn't work for me. It didn't work for me that time. I wish it did, because I know it's so popular. Anyway, but movies these days play it really safe. I feel like Marvel movies kind of, they're a Marvel movie. Like, they've got their style, they've got their thing, and movies that try to break the mold in these big tentpole things now. Like I said earlier, we're big Star Wars fans. The Force Awakens does kind of follow the formula of what we think of as a Star Wars movie. And then they tried to break that mold. And both of those, while they made a ton of money, really fractured Star Wars as a whole. It's never really been the same since those two movies came out. What is the difference between now and back then, where I think people respected, it appears to me, like looking back, like,
so you're comparing, and how, so for, you're saying like how this this Matrix movie versus the Reloaded, and the sentiment from,
we want the pattern, the repetition. We don't want to see a glitch. There is something to garner from earlier internet where it was more, society was more excited to see what technology could do and be different versus now.
Yeah, because I think the difference between that then and now is, like you said, back then people were excited about what technology could do. Today we can see what technology can do, and it's not as rosy tinted that as we thought we wanted it to be. And for, you know, various different reasons that we can go into, but I think there's a little bit of disappointment and cynicism now, and wanting to find that feeling again.
Okay. I love that you're, yes. I hope we're on the precipice or the threshold of wanting that again, to steal your word from the last few episodes. That's really what Act 1 of all of the Matrix is. Is Neo going to take the red pill and escape the comfort of the Matrix, which this movie does a great job of making the Matrix seem comfortable. And you can understand how some people may want to stay there, right? Right? Cypher? Is that his name? Who's the dude that he's, right? Like, you can almost understand he's clearly a bad dude, but I can get why he wants to stay there because it looks miserable to be out there. But that's the point of the movie, is the miserable of the unexpected is better than not changing at all, which in art for me, and this is what we're missing because AI is so algorithmic and it can't evolve that much yet. Who knows what it'll look like later, but it's still it's just regurgitates the same things over and over and over. That unpredictability, we are missing it. I think my son Michael, who is 12, was watching all of the Spider-Mans before, right? And he was like, Dad, I don't understand how in the 1900s, when those first, literally, this is how he's talking about it. In the 1900s, they shot a movie on location. And I know that they're still shooting these movies on location. But how does, even when the effects are worse and they don't have as much technology, how does that look more like the real New York than these new movies do? And I was like, this is just an interesting perspective of like a kid who doesn't have the vocabulary, to really express this stuff yet, but he is just expressing an emotion that he is feeling that these other things are not providing, because who knows, there's so many sets that, yes, they're shot on location, but then we have
he's like Neo. He is like Neo in the Matrix growing up, because Neo, before the movie starts, there's already a whole history about Neo and how he's been hacking and communicating and trying to find Morpheus, because the people like him can tell that this world is off.
There's something off.
And
don't know what's off, because it's all I know, but there's something off. 100%. Oh my God.
What a crazy, and to hear your son already, they have that same feeling today. When you look at the things that are produced today and you're like, something's off about it, It's just,
it's crazy.
Mind blowing. Yeah.
It's really, really crazy. I mean, I think that was and is the easiest go-to as like coming up as a queer person. I mean, everybody, gay or straight or whatever, has that first time you're on your own. There is like a coming out for everyone in one way or the other, right? But I just, like, when you're a young kid and you don't know, especially back in the 90s, and think about the Wachowskis and how their life progressed, like knowing there is something different and you're seeing things in a way that the rest of your circle is not seeing things, and to be searching for what it is that I am different. And I love that, like, the people who first bring Neo out of his apartment and into the searching for the White Rabbit are these radical queer people who are like the goth people wanting to go to a nightclub to go dancing, and invites this dude to be a throuple for an evening. And that's like what gets him out of the house, is like, and then there we go, right? And then he meets Trinity face to face, or lips to ear, and we're off to the races at that point in time. Like, I wonder, in that moment, actually, were those people sent to Neo's door? Or was that like not supposed to happen in some sort of weird way? You know what I mean?
It feels like, I think it's somehow Trinity and her crew have created that situation,
like, or like somehow imprinted the tattoo where the rabbit tattoo that gets him to like, oh no, I'll go. Like, that feels such a Morpheus question. That feels like a question. Was it fate that did that, or was it engineered to happen? Okay, so we're in the club. We meet
Trinity. Because, and before that, he had a little experience with his computer screen telling him to wake up.
Yep.
And so then he meets Trinity in the club, and he asks her, was it you that contacted me? And she says yes. And so they basically are talking about, they've been looking for each other, and she can help him figure out the things that he's looking for, or the big question of, what is the Matrix?
The question. the question you've always been searching for, right? That's the line, something like that.
It's exactly that, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. Michael's searching for the question right now in his entertainment. He's searching for the question of how to make movies in fairy tale lands that should be able to feel more real than ever that still aren't. I want to ask you that question as a sound designer. What is the benefit you go out and record it when it probably already exists anyways?
So that is a great question. And also to add a layer to that question, there's a whole industry of sound libraries that people will record things and then sell to you, like you can buy. And there are, great libraries out there. And so I try to collect as much as I can, because A, it gives me inspiration. B, it gives me source to use as well. And so sometimes I'll go, I need to use those libraries. I can't go out and record tigers by myself, and lions and animals, or maybe guns or airplanes. But then sometimes I can. And instead of just relying on a sound that someone else recorded, I think there's something important being able to go out and get it yourself and to experience what that sound does in the environment that it occurs in, and to experience and to be part of that space where that thing's happening, and to learn like how it's reacting in the real world, to kind of hear it, what it feels like in the real world, and how you can try to replicate that same feeling of being there, but doing it digitally, or like digitally in terms of like recording it, pulling it to a computer, putting it to a picture or to a video game, and trying to replicate what it felt like recording that sound in that space in a world that is completely different and unattached to that.
That's great. Oh, so I am getting this story in my head. Again, I could be completely wrong, right? But like I would imagine you hear things just by virtue of what you do and how many sounds in isolation you have heard, that we don't get that privilege of hearing them in isolation. You actually probably hear the world differently than your average Joe anyways. I would just imagine your ears are trained to hear more nuance than a lot of us are. I'm wondering if there is something that you were just, I think this is what you were like, there is an experience in that analog world that you bring with you, because I would imagine a lot, maybe not all the time, but like you can take sounds, and I'm thinking of Ben Burt and how like the documentaries that you listen to about creating sounds, right? And then you pitch it up, you pitch it down, you add reverb, you take out reverb, you combine it with the sound over here, that very quickly it is no longer the sound that you recorded, but there was a feeling and an experience in that tangibility that you can't get when you're just playing with like a sound library, that even if they were recorded live, right, by someone else, there's a connection that is lost. And so you can only get so close to reality because it didn't start in reality to begin with.
I mean, there's something to it.
Okay.
I think. I feel like if there's an opportunity to record the sound in the environment that just in real life, then you should take it. You should experience it. I mean, I would just equate it to people that like visual artists that, or photography or anything. Like instead of just looking at a picture of it on the screen, sometimes you just need to actually be there. You need to experience, like drawing a picture of something in Paris is very different from actually being there and being in the space, seeing how the light reflects off some of the environment around you, the people that are walking by, just that memory of being in that space, and then how you kind of interpret that into your drawing or to your piece that you're making. Different. Who knows if it's better? But I feel like it just gives you a different dimension to the art that you're creating. And it's almost like you're getting a first-hand account of something, and you're able to then let that travel through into the way, the thing you create. rather than looking at a picture, which is probably, it's like a secondhand account.
And I say to you, my brothers and sisters, hell is a deep, dark, foul-smelling prison of the damned, filled with fire and brimstone, lost souls and demons. And how do you escape this eternal damnation? You blast the nasty pink demons right between their beady little eyes.
Doom for the 64-bit Jaguar. The best Doom ever.
Yeah, like that's almost like that's what's worth breaking out of the Matrix and entering this dangerous life, is just to feel something. Because when you're stuck in those patterns and those routines, whatever it might be, we've all been there in life, that you can't feel anything anymore. Things like a ChatGPT or a Google search, like we no longer even feel the need to like verify it to make sure like what is accurate or not, because we've become too reliant on it. But there is something happening where we are becoming more aware that we're trusting too much. And I think that is a question that, like, Cypher is a more interesting character in that aspect for me, because like there is someone who did something and still wants to go back.
Yeah, I
If that
think
makes sense,
I
right?
feel like the whole Googling questions, and one of the things I feel like we've completely lost is being able to discuss things and like not arguments, but like I have so many situations where I'm with friends or family and someone's like, what was the name of, what did this actor do or something? And then we're just like, oh, let me just look it up real quick. But it's like we're letting go of some of this brain power of us just being able to think and remember and to talk about and debate ideas with people. And we're just saying, oh, we can just find the answer because it already exists, instead of just being able to go like, oh, well, I think this, or what about this first? And what's your opinion on it?
Critical inquiry. That is what we are missing. Even like you mentioned, Googling it. Like, so in, not too far from 1999, you were Googling things. But back then, Googling things, you still generally had to go click several links. And you don't even have to do that anymore. And because ChatGPT goes and searches all of those links for you and then summarizes all those links into some singular blob that it decided for whatever reason, these are the parts that we're going to get. And we just take that at face value.
Even though sometimes it's wrong.
Yeah, even if it's wrong. And like that is the part of AI. It's a lot of singular experiences pushed into one thing. And I am hoping that we are valuing the single experience, because even critical inquiry, like when you're talking about like, or having a conversation or a debate or like a healthy banter, it's individuals having individual thoughts against another individual thought. And that is what I feel like we are losing. Like even on social media, like there is like mass waves of trends, and it's so hard to maintain your individual voice on like a social media platform, because social media doesn't value a singular voice. It values the masses to try to push up that algorithm to make sure voices are heard. And I think that hunt for the likes or the shares or the comments oftentimes pushes people into needing to say the thing that is trending.
Yeah, because we're losing our agency in that we're almost being tricked into thinking that we want to talk about something, but we're only talking about something that is being dictated by algorithms and by platforms. They think this is the most important thing to talk about because everyone's talking about it. And so, yeah, our agency is being lost a little bit because instead of talking about what we want to talk about, it's being diverted to like, oh my gosh, if everyone's talking about this, I got to join in. And it's not something that is just organic. It's just a kind of a crazy, it's like the Matrix, it's like this crazy machine that is just kind of moving it itself. Maybe not even a bad way. I mean, yes, this is all being run so that we can devote our attention and our time to it, because we are the product. That's what it is right now. But I think in the terms of the Matrix, like, there is this thing that people are getting lost in. And I think bringing it back to Neo and these people that are like trying to find themselves, they want to break free from that. They want to be able to, they're noticing, like, why do the movies all today look all not real? And I think that's the agency that we are trying to find, even though if the agency is being taken away from us at the same time.
All right, let me ask a question. Spoiler alert to what we don't know when we're watching the original Matrix, but Neo finally meets Morpheus. He's introduced to a red pill or a blue pill. Which one do you want? Do you want to free your mind, or do you want to stay a prisoner in the Matrix, right? And he takes the red pill, is listened to Morpheus and kind of his philosophy of all of the things, right? We know Morpheus thinks that Neo is the one that's going to finally free all of the humans that are left and the future humans from staying in the Matrix, right? And it isn't long after Neo takes the red pill and meets the Oracle, who becomes a major influence as well. And I feel the Oracle contradicts some of what Morpheus says, right? A little bit, and kind of introduces Neo to this other path. And there's like another awakening within Neo once he sees that. But the interesting thing is that we know is that the Oracle ends up being a part of is the Matrix. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on the Matrix itself, introducing Neo, the human, into a different perspective of how to separate computer and life all in itself, right? Where Morpheus is the person, but in some ways is almost just putting him into another box of Morpheus doesn't give people a lot of choice, just like the Matrix robs a lot of choice. Like Morpheus, he's still very narrow-minded in his free your mind, open-mindedness, if that.
It is. Yeah, I was curious to see what you thought about that, because one of the weird paradoxes of Morpheus is that he's trying to free people of their mind, but then at the same time, he is believing this kind of dogmatic, like, ideology of Neo being the one because of a prophecy from, I mean, we didn't know at the time, but from the Oracle that is also part of the Matrix. Or did he, because I can't remember the second one right now, but did he know she was?
No.
She did know. He did know she was. But even then, like, the idea of someone trying to free people from a totalitarian machine hive mind, or like Matrix system, but then to adopt this ideology of someone being the one, being like a Christ figure.
Yep.
It's just an interesting paradox that I really saw when I watched it again this last time.
I mean, similar to how I feel about the Jedi in the prequels, and one of the things I loved in the Star Wars prequels and the way it recontextualized what the Jedi were, long before the Acolyte or Rian Johnson did that, George Lucas did that in Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. I am not a religious person at all. So Morpheus, while I acknowledge that he's a good dude and he's doing the right thing, I couldn't follow someone like that because there's too much dogma. Like, there's too much. I find it interesting in that it really is technology that frees those things from the Oracle being the Matrix, being the machine, frees Neo from the dogmatic thinking that is still just as closed-minded as the Matrix, in my opinion. And I think that says something about technology of, like, it can still free you. There is a world where those two things can exist, because I think at the end, and we never see this, right? But there's no way the world can ever come back. the way it was. So what is the ultimate goal for all of these people? Because the earth is gone. It looks uninhabitable for the most part above the surface, right? So is the Matrix trying to say that the one way is a combination of the two?
I think that is pretty spot on. I think I want to rewatch it again with this context. That's the second and third one, but
yeah,
I think the whole point of this trilogy is to show these two immovable objects, two sides that have evolved together to the point where they are directly opposed to each other, and it just takes someone, which I think was the Oracle. It was the Oracle and the Architect. The Architect is order, and the Oracle's chaos. And it shows how, like, in nature, there is the chaos balances with the order, and that's how we're able to.
That's what works.
That's what works, And so I think she saw that this cycle of just violence, just going cycle after cycle. Like, how many times did this whole thing happen before? Like 6 times, I think.
Yeah. I think, they were on like versions. They were on like .6 or something. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think she was trying to basically figure out a way to find a balance between the two sides. Because I think, if I remember correctly, like, you start finding out that there's actually good programs, or good machines. And I think that's essentially why the Matrix keeps happening, And I think it's the idea of trying to break this wheel, this violent cycle, and the Oracle basically kind of leaves it up to chance because she is chaos. And the one thing that the Architect didn't plan on was Neo falling in love and picking love, because love is that is like a purely human trait, and that's what sets off this whole trilogy. And I guess the ending was just that Neo sacrificed himself, because we're going a little ahead. I can't remember the revelations that much, but I think because Agent Smith like starts replicating himself, and then he becomes a danger to the Matrix. And so I think the only way to stop it was literally that these two beings had to like get wiped off the board. And that is finally what I think the decision was, just to end the violence. And both sides agreed, okay, we have to learn how to live with each other, without violence. And so they let some people free. Like, some of the machines let people, if they want to disconnect, they can. I can't remember exactly. And then they also, but then the humans also, they relied on machines, primitive machines, to stay alive in Zion and these other human settlements. So
because we cannot be free from technology.
Yes.
Actually, this is so funny. I talk about Michael all the time. So if you're new here, you'll get to know Michael pretty well. Michael was trying to ask me, when did technology first come out? And I was trying to what do you mean by technology? Because I would probably argue that the minute human beings picked up a rock and smashed it on the ground and created tools, that was the first thing of technology. It doesn't look like what technology is now, but to me, that's what I would argue, because we a technological animal. Like, that is how we got to where we got in the scheme of life. We build
tools to make our lives better.
And we will always build tools. And right now, tools are like computers and AI. And as you mentioned last time, specifically, large language models are kind of the thing that is going to change everything. And the idea of ChatGPT and Google Gemini or Claude or whatever else is out at this moment in time, is going to change things, but we can't ever get rid of it. Like we're never going to be able to get rid of it now.
Well,
so we're going to have to figure out how to use it.
how do we make sure that we use it for the better? We use it as a tool instead of the tool using us.
Well, that's what happened, right?
That's the
right.
That's
I mean, that's what happened. We like literally, it is feeding off on us. Let me tell you, in a few weeks, we have this a PD at work, and I had to do this training for this, like a lesson plan data hub sort of thing, right? So it's a thing that we upload our information into, or our lessons and all of that kind of stuff, right? And I get why it's storage, just like it's like an old notebook, right? If another teacher comes or whatever, like, right? Like that all makes sense, right? We all have to have a backup plan in case this person leaves and another human comes in. We know what the class or whatever is about. However, I'm uploading all these things onto this computer, Lord knows where, and I'm watching this training thing to teach me how to use this new software. It was taught by Jack, who had a neck that was kind of too long and eyes that felt just almost too far apart. And then a voice that just kept saying, "Hi, I'm Jack. Hi, I'm Jack. Hi, I'm Jack." And I'm watching it going, as an educator, saying, okay, I'm uploading all of this information so that a computer can use another educator's information to now talk to me. And I have to say, I think it was one of the most matrixy things I've experienced so far with AI. Like, it generally just annoys me. I think I've mentioned that a few times. Like, Tom will watch these things, my husband, and like, Tom is Cypher. That dude would just hop back in there. Like, that is where he would go. I know my husband. That's the side he would pick. He's like, well, that's fine. Right. And I think this movie does a great job, actually, of justifying why some people would rather just stay there. So it's not a side against my husband. He's wonderful and perfect, and I love him dearly. But I, for the first time, found myself not really annoyed, but like really angry.
Terminator!
I'm back. Got to find John Connor.
But evil T-1000 gets to him first.
Hey, back off.
Terminator's heavy metal cycle zeroes in and fires. But T-1000 stands to get even.
This is for getting on my bad side. You're next, John Connor. I'm back.
Terminator deploys his secret weapon.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Terminated.
This time.
Terminator is back.
And like, this podcast and this project for me is more of an exploration of how can we have these two things together? Where are we going to go? What are we going to take from back here when this didn't exist? Because we can be better in the future because of all the stuff that exists now. But we have to make sure we're tethered back here and we don't lose ourselves here. If that makes sense. Like, that's where I'm interested in, is how do we survive the chaos so that the Oracle and the Architect can work together and we can come out okay. That technological feat is interesting, but that interest dies off real soon when you realize that it's soulless. And I think that is where the Oracle is interesting, because the Oracle is the computer that learned it can't do what a human can do.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it can do human things better than a human could do it, it still isn't human.
And the cool thing about the Oracle is that so kind of switching gears, the first scene where Neo meets the Oracle in the kitchen, and she says, "Don't worry about the vase." And Neo says, "What vase?" And he knocks over the vase because he was looking at it after she mentioned it. And then she said, "No, don't mention it." It's like, the bigger question is, would you have broken it if I had not mentioned it? And it's such I think it might be one of my favorite scenes, because it kind of boils this whole movie down. This scene is like this movie. It kind of encapsulates a lot of what it's trying to say about fate versus free will. And I think it's a little bit of, I think they're trying to say there's a little bit of both happening where she, in the case of Oracle, she's trying to influence Neo and trying to say that there's these two.
Because she's probably the one that broke that vase.
Or who knows, right? Like it's one of those, it's just a crazy thing to think about. It's like, if we had not known that this was going to be a decision, would you have taken it? You know? And also, what else does she say? She says something to him. She says, you know what I'm going to tell you. And he says, I'm not the one. And she says, sorry, kiddo. But did she know what he was going to say? The way she asked the question was, whatever he would have said, she could have confirmed it as, like as to make it feel like that she is this all-knowing being. But I think it's just Neo needed to feel like he was making the decision himself, which I feel like we can relate to him in this way where we are in the control of our lives. We want to feel like we are. And whenever we're put in a situation where we don't have that control, a lot of us won't take it. And so if we I guess the movie's trying to say is like, if there's a amount of believing in yourself and faith that you need to have to kind of help you make the decisions. And I just think that's just a interesting, fascinating conversation.
Oh my gosh. I love that take. And I think it is so way off from my take. Maybe similar, right? But that's why this movie is so incredible. And that is where another reason why I really want to do this project is these are the conversations that we need to have. Like, we need to get back to Google searching and checking up different links and having conversations with and listening to other views on. Yeah. Anyways, because I would argue that, or the way I watch it or perceive it, is because there isn't a one. Of course, he's not the one because there isn't a one. He isn't any more special than anyone else who would decide to take the red pill and wake up. If they are open to the idea, anyone could be that thing. And that's the part that like Morpheus has always missed. Morpheus wasn't confident enough that he could do it on his own. He didn't have the belief that he was the one. That was not his purpose. His purpose, because then we later find out too, like Morpheus had been wrong before. And that's what caused a lot of the turmoil in Zion, right? Like, but maybe that was his purpose, was to go wake up as many of the ones as they could, because at that stage of where the Matrix is at, human beings were one and machines were the other one, and no one person could stop the Matrix. It was going to require all of those people. If all of those people, as the shows progress, right, and in some great fun action scenes of killer octopus robots breaking in to the last civilization, supposed last civilization, it wouldn't have worked because Neo was off doing Neo's thing. And maybe it was the fact that he was chasing love. And maybe that's also the thing that the computer finally understood in a way that the computer didn't think that it could ever understand, because Neo was looking out for the one himself. He was willing to sacrifice everybody else for himself. Trinity was willing to sacrifice everyone else for herself. Oh my God, I feel like I'm in the Matrix now. I'm like talking in all the... I'm like falling down. It's like trying to talk about Interstellar. You're like, oh my God. And that door just opened.
Yeah. And I don't think we're different the way, because I don't think...
Maybe it's not. Actually,
I don't think he is the one. I think, well, in terms of maybe like the story that they're trying to tell, like the Oracle's trying to set up the pieces to cause chaos so that something else could happen potentially. And she even she tells Trinity that you're going to fall in love with the one. And then, so she's trying to set the pieces up, hoping and thinking that this is going to cause a different outcome. Right. But I do, in terms of like the philosophy though, I do think that none of us feel like we're the one, or a lot of us just, we don't we are Neo, and the fact that maybe somebody tells us we are important, but we don't feel that way. And the only way the only person that can save yourself is yourself. And I feel like that's what this movie, to me, that's kind of what I get out of this movie, is that you are going to be the person that saves yourself. You have to believe in you. Someone can't just tell you you're the one. You have to believe that yourself. And Neo
Yes.
never really, even the way that he believes in himself is him just thinking of other people and trying to save other people.
Yeah, I mean, I think he cracks under that pressure of being the one and dismisses it because no one can. I agree. Yeah, I oftentimes share this with young people because it's a real struggle for young people when you're 11, 12, 13. You're really just starting to come into your own and you don't know how to express those things yet, and it's so easy to stand and hide in the corners and not be the one to speak out about whatever it might be, right? But I often share that history very, very rarely remembers those that fit in, and history will always remember those that stand out. But there's lots of ones that stand out, right? And so Neo stood out. All of those people that took the red pill stood out. They needed to step out also because the people stuck on Zion, many of them had never been in the Matrix, right? They were born there and I'm blanking on the name that they have for themselves. But they also, they can't understand. So they can't fight for something the same way that someone who got out of the Matrix could fight for the people in the Matrix. Like they can't experience that thing. I've had this conversation many a time that I never know how it's going to be perceived by people. But like as a queer person, a non-queer person can never really fight for, we need them to voice their things, but they can never voice it the same way that we can because they can't understand what it is like. And I don't mean that as a dismissiveness towards their voices, but like no one was going to be able to free the people from the Matrix unless people had experienced that. Because even if, like, let's say the people of Zion got everybody out, they're not going to be able to understand what they went through and then probably would not be able to help them once they were out. It would be like lots of straight people or parents. A lot of times parents are like, but there's more to you than just being gay. And yes, there is. But for many people, that queerness is such a big part of the identity, not only for ourselves, but also because that's how society views you, that we can't separate them. And that's something that, like, I think a lot of people don't think about, that there's certain things that come with life that make it easier and you didn't have to think about it, but not everyone has that ability to not think about certain kinds of things. And I think that was something that the movie is also exploring. Like, how do you free yourself from a thing? Like, you have to be selfish in a way, and there has to be the one. And like you said, you have to fight for yourself, but also at the same time kind of fight for everybody. Those two things are not mutually exclusive, but oftentimes we think that they are.
Yeah, I think there's a certain amount of, there's a bit of both. Like, you have to fight for yourself, but also you have to look around you and try to help people up as well at the same time. And I think that's what the Morpheus is. That's what his goal is to do. Is he woke up, he got out, and he's trying to find other people. And I mean, I love that we're starting.
But that's the thing. I don't think he ever realizes that was what his purpose was, to wake so many people up. It was sad. Like, I don't think he ever,
because he was just trying to find the one, not knowing that he's actually helping people all over.
The one people.
Yeah.
The one human race. Like, that's, you know what I mean? It was, yeah. That's really, I never really thought of it that way.
Do you have?
But there is the one with like all lower caps, and then the one being all upper caps. There's like the one human race and the one individual within that human race. That like,
Do you have
What were you gonna
any?
say?
Do you have anybody that was Morpheus to you in your life that maybe was able to like one thing I like about Morpheus? I mean, there's many things, but one tactic I love that I noticed this particularly this last time I watched it is he just kept asking questions. He wasn't
Mhm.
telling Neo, this is what you need to believe. This is what's happening. Every time
Mhm.
that Neo had a question, he would just come back with another question. And
Mhm.
it was just this inquisitiveness, this way of redirecting people's questions so that they could reflect on things themselves. So like, was there any, does that like resonate with you? Like, were there times in your life that you had people or instances that they were able to give you grace to try to explore things yourself?
Yes, to some people who are listening to this that have followed me for a long time, you will not be surprised. Like Yoda was that person for me. And I know that sounds super cornball to a lot, maybe, but to me, that character really is that thing for me. Like Yoda taught me to question things. And then the minute you got an answer, it just led to another question. And to maintain that inquisitiveness, Jim Henson taught me that with that inevitable curiousness that I think those two, and I'm just going to call Jim Henson a character for this example, right? But like there was a childlike energy to them that I desperately, that maybe that's what, like that childlike wonder is the thing that freed me from a lot of things in my life. And I think still does. Like I like not knowing anything. And by not knowing anything, I mean the minute you get an answer, it leads to another question. And I like that curiousness and I like that because it's always growing and it will never end. And I personally find so much freedom in that. And maybe that like strong belief in that is what has kept me out of church for all of these years, because I think a lot of people go to church and go to God for that. But I found it in just life itself, I think, which is why I don't like to say I'm not a religious person. I mean, by definition, religion needs some sort of organization to it. And I don't like to say spiritual to people because then I think you think of only crystals and summer trips to Santa Fe.
Mm-hmm.
I think the fact that we are always trying to be better and we are really the only animal that we know of on this planet that in a way wants more and will push our own evolution. And I think like that's where we're at right now. AI is this thing. And maybe that's why, as not a fan of AI as I am, I also understand that's where we're at right now. Like when human beings first learned to control fire, right? Imagine how many trees and animals lost their lives and how many early humans lost their lives because they couldn't figure out how to control fire yet. They learned how to create it, but they couldn't control it. And we're like right now just taking rocks and sparking, and that's what ChatGPT and all that stuff is. So that's why it's
the only difference is that people like cavemen weren't making billions of dollars. Like there wasn't some high CEO caveman making billions of dollars off this hole and cycling it through.
Yeah. There's not nearly as many early humans living on this planet either. You know what I mean? There's not nearly as many people. But I guess at the end of the day, I believe in people and I hope that we will make the right decisions. So we have to look back in order to go forward sometimes.
Yeah, I mentioned it before the call, but I'm reading a book by what's his name? Corey. Can't remember his last name, but it's the book is called The Reverse Centaur's Guide to Life After AI. And there's a whole chapter about AI, quote unquote, finger, quote unquote, art. And there's a great analogy that he made. I think he I just read it, so it's kind of fresh on my mind, but at the same time, I want to explain it. I don't know if I can explain it that well. But he just mentioned he has the situation of when you are asking for a recommendation from your professor. And before, LLMs, getting asking a professor for a recommendation was a huge deal. Sometimes you probably wouldn't even want to bother you would have to be so confident that your professor would say yes, that it just takes a lot for you to do that, right? And then also to think about the professor they have to take their time to write this whole page about you, about how much they recommend you and with past experiences, and endorse you. It takes a long time. And you're also asking a lot. Cut forward to today where professors can just have basically 3 bullet points and then tell an LLM to create a recommendation. And it takes 3 sentences into 5, 6, 7 paragraphs. And then they send it to you as a recommendation. They're doing these for everyone now. So the level, there's a level of intimacy and meaning that has been tarnished, I think. And then now, because there's so many recommendations, when you send off these recommendations to whoever you're sending to, they're also getting a lot of recommendations. So then they're putting those recommendations in an LLM and then telling the prompt to, can you just boil this down to the 3 bullet points? So this idea of there's a really bad game of telephone that's happening. And
game of telephone is the perfect analogy.
Yeah. And there's meaning that we're losing. And that's when we start feeling things that's one thing we start interpreting things of it feeling soulless. And in the book, Core mentions, he actually uses the word eerie, because eerie is, I think he says,
I like that.
Yeah. I think the definition, it was expecting something to happen, but nothing happens, or when nothing happens, something happens that's not supposed to happen. And it just feels eerie. And so that's the feeling we're having. And that's the idea of that. That's why we get that feeling we get that feeling when we experience AI art, because I think you mentioned it too, when Mid-Journey was big in 2021 or 22, I think we all were just whoa, this is technology could do this. We thought it was a huge leap, because it was undoubtedly pretty cool that you could just prompt it.
I think the idea that it can do that is still cool. Doesn't mean I think it's ethical or the right thing to do, but it's amazing that we got there.
Yes. But now I think we are at the tail end of it, with the analogy of these recommendations that are just spit out by LLMs. We're not even spending time to read them. And then when we're reading it, it's well, I'm just trying to get through whatever this junk is. And so now we're experiencing that.
Everything's being
art,
devalued
with these pieces that generative AI is making, where we're just something about this just doesn't, it feels eerie, and I don't know why. And that's the sad thing about what's happening, I think.
It's interesting that you mention recommendations, right? I am asked to write lots of recommendations for kids and stuff, which is great. And I always say, hey, it's going to take me a few days. I want to make sure that I give you the respect to think, right? And I too help all these LLMs because I am not a great speller. So I have to put everything in there and say, hey, please check for typos and please check for my grammar.
That's just spell check though. We've had that for years.
Yes. But now it's being sold off because now you're not paying for the Note app that you put it in. And so now that Note app is sending all your information. So that's what's happening, right? But some of these kids, I think they get genuinely frustrated because it feels like it's taking too long, right? And I'm like, hey, yeah, just give me 2 or 3 days. 2 days in, Mr. Barry, do you have it? And I'm like, I'm working on it. Okay, I just really need it. I got you, right? And these are wonderful kids. They're not doing anything wrong. Don't listen. Don't take it that way. But then they'll read it and I can see it. If I have an opportunity to hand it to them and watch them read, or sometimes, some of these kids send a very nice email back and you can tell they're only used to going to people and getting that, hey, ChatGPT, these are the 3 great things about said student. Can you write a recommendation letter? As opposed to a handcrafted recommendation letter with actual human experience and emotion in it. And I think some of these kids, which is a privilege that I get to have now, right? Of them witnessing, because these kids only know this world that we're in now, right? And maybe this is what we're after. There's something eerie but we're not noticing it, but like they feel seen because someone actually took the time to mention things that an AI is not going to be able to mention in a way that AI can't do it because it didn't have the experience with that person. So it's trying to manufacture an experience. And, that's what the Matrix could never do. It was only ever going to manufacture an experience, but it couldn't create any experiences.
It was manufacturing what it thought the turn of the century was going to be, or what it was, and to the best of its ability. And people were feeling something eerie.
Yeah. Yep. We're in an eerie phase right now. For sure. That's a really good spot to end this episode. We're going to leave feeling eerie until the next episode, where we hopefully leave feeling
hopeful.
What's
powerful,
the opposite of eerie?
Or
alive.
Alive.
Real. Correct. Not scary. Rainbows and lollipops.
Revealed or not.
Well, thank you for listening, everyone. I'm Brian. Brian has been with us. Let's get into exploring how our analog past can shape our future together. And let us know what you think. What is making the internet feel eerie? Like, what is that eerie feeling? What are we missing? And it's giving us that bone-chillingly eeriness.
Spine tingles.
The spine tingles
on the back of your
neck. The Peter tingles. It's giving us the Peter tingles.
Sense.
All right. Until next time, everyone. Thank you very much. Don't forget to head on over to skullboi.com, subscribe to the newsletter, keep in touch, and we will talk to you later.
Bye.